is almost impossible to pull off a feud and tick every single box. We all think we can do this when we fantasy book, but sometimes everything can be great on paper and then bam, something doesn't click or a totally different idea comes into play. I mean, you really do need all the stars to align perfectly. So let us investigate this a little bit further today, because that's right, my friends. Here are 10 classic wrestling rivalries with just one thing missing. Number 10, Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, and the fact it never really had a definitive singles payoff. Now, this likely would have changed if Bret Hart hadn't have gone to WCW. Let's all remember that their submission match at WrestleMania 13 is one of the most important in WWE history. It was the same when they clashed at Survivor Series 1996, especially because this was Hart's big return, and the first proper time we started to sing the praises of one Steve Austin. Both men were about to embark on storylines that would change their careers forever. The chemistry between them was also wonderful, which is why we did it again at In Your House Revenge of the Taker and on a random Monday Night Raw. But by this point, other elements had come into play, so they ended in a disqualification and no contest respectively. So you would have thought eventually a WrestleMania would have come around when we got that big payoff, and Austin probably would have been the champion. But alas, we never got it. That one big blow-off that would have sent them off into the sunset together. Not sure we're going to get that today, all things considered, but let's definitely enjoy what we had. Number 9, Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka. Between 1994 and 2005, Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka stood across from each other 168 times. Most of these were tag team matches, but we still got 20 or so single encounters, and nearly every single one are considered a classic. The sheer violence is something to behold and freak out over, and this continued at the WWE Record One Night Stand event in 2005. Even though Awesome was hated by the ECW fan base for leaving the company as champion to join WCW, after this war we all remembered, oh yeah, these two get together, it's an utter spectacle. Amazingly though, the sheer brutality was enough to sell their battles, which is why I suppose they never felt the need to resort to blood. Well, externally, don't want to know what was happening on the inside, but many a critic has made the argument that if one of these pastings had been accompanied by the red stuff, it may have reached even higher levels. A big part of me is glad they didn't, because what they did was more than enough. I mean, if you told me they were actually trying to kill each other, I would believe you. Number 8, Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. And the fact that at the moment, they've never had that long-awaited rematch kills me. We all know they made history at WrestleMania 37 by getting all the emotion and pouring it into the ring before just showcasing their ridiculous wrestling skills. It also basically anointed Belair as a new mega player on the main roster. And when we were done, the big conversation was how soon we could get to round 2. And we didn't. Now, I'm sure this one was on the cards when Banks had a falling out with management and decided to leave the company. Maybe this has worked in our favor. Mercedes Moné feels like a bigger star than ever, so if she does return and we kick this off again, my gosh, it could be all time. We already know they have wild chemistry, so I should just keep my fingers crossed, as this is an actual feud we can go back to. They're both still kicking ass and taking names. We just need one signing, and we're halfway there. Number 7, CM Punk versus MJF. And the fact that it's another feud didn't get their big final match. Now, AEW clearly wanted to do this, but we all know what happened. It all imploded with CM Punk and he was fired. Well, even before that, MJF didn't confront him after All Out 2022 for fun. That was the direction. But that did mean that both guys now had a win each. Their chemistry was so good too, when a world title was thrown into the mix, it just made sense to do it all again. Now, just to be that guy, yes, this could very well happen in another promotion one day, or hell, maybe somehow it goes down in AEW. Would anybody dare say no way after the last 12 months? If so, you're totally crazy. Anything is possible. Either way, I do hope we get it somehow. It kind of feels like we'd all be in for quite the treat. Number 6, CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston. And here's the other one we gotta mention. We only got one fight between these two. One! It should be illegal, I tell ya. I totally believe they don't like each other. Even if I am being worked, more power to you. You smashed it. The real joy is it wasn't you go, I go, we all go. They yelled at each other, interrupted, got mad, were frustrated. Felt like two people who had serious beef. You also got to choose your side, as this wasn't about good guys versus bad guys, and it tied into that Full Gear match. The intensity just kept on rolling. This was also the first time since his comeback where Punk felt like the angry version of himself, which made the story even better. We also all know that Kingston is just the best, and sadly, I don't think we are going to get this. I hope I am wrong, given what I just spoken about. Either way, I shall continue to dream. Number 5, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. They never had that one classic exhibition singles match. We first lost it at All Out 2019 when Mox injured his elbow when they did come back together, and we got that incredible Lights Out War as a make good. The Winter is Coming 2020 clash certainly was big time and for the championship, but we do have to throw an asterisk in there too. It was right in the middle of the pandemic, we didn't have the crowd we normally would. Next was the barbed wire exploding madness with the steel cage topping this off, so there is still room here. Can have Kenny and Jonathan just staring at each other across the ring and let them cook. I cannot believe this isn't in the future plans too. I bet we see it in the next 12 months. Number 4, WCW versus WWE. If well over a year World Championship Wrestling could claim to be the #1 promotion in the world when Vince McMahon and friends fought back, kind of felt like we were in the middle of a slugfest. In actuality though, as soon as Raw did pull ahead, that was that. There was no twist in the tail or resurgence from WCW. I mean, you could actually go and watch Nitro in late 1998 and start to see the mistakes that were going to kill the company 3 years later. Come 2001, McMahon just turned up on their TV and we moved forwards as if this wasn't the predominant battle of the mid to late 90s. So you think that WCW would have had one last hurrah? But I tell you this, they did not. Number 3, Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. The feud never made it to the WWE. And that is not the be-all and end-all, and forevermore Steamboat versus Flair will be considered a classic. But the truth is, both men were employed by WWE at the same time, and yet never clashed in the company. Ricky wrestled his last match at the time for the World Wrestling Federation on October 20th, 1991. Just a month prior, Flair had debuted against Jim Powers and had 14 matches before the Dragon left. So we could have done it. Knowing how McMahon's brain worked, he likely wanted nothing to do with it as it happened outside of his powerhouse. And he had spent most of 1989 coming up with counter-programming to try and kill interest in their feud. So really, if we lay all our cards on the table, probably never going to happen. Number 2, CM Punk versus Jon Moxley. The tension between these two felt real, and we soon learned that it was, because after the infamous All Out press conference, both shared less than complimentary words about the other. This could be why on the TV we saw Mox wreck Punk in a squash match before CM returned to defeat him at the paper. As really, this was two guys playing compromise. More power to them as well, that's how it should be. There was then the super duper mega fallout, so we never got the big final battle, and now, I don't know, man. Does go against what I said earlier, but it feels like once CM Punk is done with this WWE run, that could be it, whereas Moxley has made it clear he never wants to return to the other place. This may be one of those what-ifs that last forevermore. Don't bet on it. Number 1, Randy Orton versus Triple H. So this all stems back to WrestleMania 25, which is kinda stupid, but hey, people still want to talk about it. Because do not forget, the rivalry between these two basically went on for years. The most notable falling out was when Randy Orton got ejected from Evolution, and down the line it got so personal, we had a home invasion. That's right, wrestlers infiltrating another private's life to try and kill them. These two clearly hated each other. This is why it was so crazy to get to the show of shows in that year, and they just locked up. That's right, they decided to apply headlocks. Somebody please make it make sense. This sort of rang true for the rest of their encounters too, and look, they're not bad, don't get me wrong. These were two seasoned pros, but we never got to that bubbling blood level where you watch wide-eyed worrying about what was next. And we could have done that. It was all there. It sort of doesn't matter as both are Hall of Famers, but yeah. Oh, what could have been. Now you will be able to see a video that is on the screen, which is top 10 secret wrestling gimmicks that will blow your mind. So give it a click, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Otherwise, have a great day. Remember, it's more fun to enjoy wrestling. I will talk to you again very, very soon.